Hello everybody and welcome to this video on Assessment Objective 6, Technical Accuracy. The writing sections of the English language exam are awarded heavily for spelling, punctuation and grammar. Question 5 in paper 1 and question 5 in paper 2 are both worth 40 marks, and 16 of those marks are awarded for spelling, punctuation and grammar. So in this short series I'm going through some of the most important things to do with spelling, punctuation and grammar and some of the most common mistakes. I just want to impress upon you the importance of getting your punctuation right. Have a look at this. Dear Mr. Bruff, I want a man who knows what love is all about. You are generous, kind, thoughtful. People who are not like you admit to being useless and inferior. You have ruined me for other men. I yearn for you. I have no feelings whatsoever when we're apart. I can be forever happy. Will you let me be yours, Mrs. Bruff? So imagine that I received that letter. I'd be delighted, wouldn't I? But now imagine I received the exact same letter with the punctuation changed to this. Dear Mr. Bruff, I want a man who knows what love is. All about you are generous, kind, thoughtful people who are not like you. Admit to being useless and inferior. You have ruined me. For other men I yearn. For you I have no feelings whatsoever. When we're apart I can be forever happy. Will you let me be? Yours, Mrs. Bruff. Now these two letters are one of the best examples I've ever seen of how punctuation can totally change meaning. And one of the big types of punctuation that people often get confused with is commas. Now commas actually is Greek for a piece cut off, and commas point up in the same way as musical notes. There are literary qualities such as rhythm and direction, pitch, tone and flow. In other words, they tell us how to read something. Now let me just say, we never divide two complete sentences with a comma. That's a very common mistake, a very common mistake, and it is one of the biggest things to overcome. And I think the problem is people divide sentences with commas because the sentences are so closely linked, but we never ever put a comma between two complete sentences. You might use a semicolon occasionally, but we'll get to that in a future video. So don't use comma splices because that's the most common mistake with commas. How do you use them? Well, as I'm sure you know, this is the easy use. Commas divide items in a list, but we don't use a comma before the and at the end. So the 4 refreshing fruit flavours of Starburst are orange, comma, lemon, comma, strawberry and lime. You see the last 2 items in the list here, they don't have a comma. We use the word and. And the rule here is actually that if the comma can be replaced by the word and or, then it's the right way of using it. Commas for joining. So commas are used in compound sentences when we have 2 independent clauses joined with one of the fanboys conjunctions, and you can learn more about this in the grammar playlist. But for and, nor but or yet so. So you can see the example at the bottom here. The boys wanted to stay up until midnight, but they grew tired and fell asleep. Where we divide the sentences with a conjunction, we put a comma before the conjunction. Now occasionally you'll have a very short sentence that you might think doesn't require a comma. It's a little bit of a judgment call, but certainly on a sentence of any length where it's important that the reader understands the 2 distinct parts of the sentence in a compound sentence, you use a comma. Bracketing commas are my favourite because the thing with bracketing commas is they come across as very, very sophisticated, and having been an examiner and a teacher and all the rest of it, I know a lot of students don't use them. So if you can use them, I feel like your work will stand out right away. Bracketing commas come in pairs and they break up information that can be taken out of the sentence and the sentence will still make sense. So if you have a look at this example, Tommy, who loves reading, is visiting the library. Now you can see we've got 2 commas here, and actually the information in between the 2 commas, if we were taking it out, the sentence would still make sense. Tommy is visiting the library. So Christmas, my favourite time of the year, is just a few weeks away. If we take out the bit in between the 2 commas, it would still be a complete sentence. Christmas is just a few weeks away. So that's a really nice sophisticated use of comma. We also use commas when we have a complex sentence, and whenever we have the subordinate clause coming first. Now, what do I mean by that? We need to know a bit about sentences. Although she wanted to go, she knew she had to stay. This is a complex sentence that starts with the subordinate clause. In a complex sentence, we join sentences with words, connectives like because, although, if, and between the two clauses, if it starts with the subordinate clause, we have a comma. Now, what do I mean by that? In a complex sentence like this one, I need to go to the doctor because I have a headache. We have two sentences. I need to go to the doctor, and we have the sentence, I have a headache. We've joined them with the connective because, and that makes what we call a complex sentence. A complex sentence made up of a main clause, which still makes sense on its own, I need to go to the doctor, and a subordinate clause, which doesn't make sense on its own, because I have a headache. Now, to vary your sentence structure, which is another really important thing at GCSE, what you can do is you can start your sentences with the subordinate clauses. And this will help you to not always have sentences beginning with the same word. So you could say, because I have a headache, I need to go to the doctor. So this top one, she knew she had to stay, although she wanted to go. If we start with the subordinate clause, although she wanted to go, then we use a comma. So for a complex sentence that starts with the subordinate clause, we have a comma after the subordinate clause. For a complex sentence that starts with the main clause, we don't. A little bit complex, isn't it? Commas after introductory adverbs. So, again, sentence variety. If you have the sentence, I chopped down the tree, and you think, oh, all my sentences are starting with the word I, you can put an adverb in there, happily. And after the adverb, you need that comma. Happily, I chopped down the tree. So that's it for this video. I hope you found it useful. Please do subscribe to the channel.